Before I begin today's story, let me warn you about something. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock. It cries. Soft at first, then louder, until it forces you to listen. My name is Claire, and this is the story of why I stopped trusting the man I married. My daughter Mia was only 4 months old when I noticed it. She cried like any baby, hungry, sleepy, overstimulated. But around my husband Daniel? No. It was different. Every time he walked into the room, she stiffened. Her tiny hands curled into fists. Her little chest heaved like she couldn't breathe. And then she cried, a scream that didn't sound like fear. It sounded like recognition. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she wasn't used to his cologne. Maybe his voice was too loud. Maybe I was overthinking new mom anxiety, right? But then it kept happening. Morning. Night. Whenever he held her. She never cried with my mom. She never cried with my sister. She never cried with strangers even. Only him. And he always reacted the same way, frozen, guilty, stiff. Like he was scared too. Daniel. I finally snapped late one night. Why does she cry every time you touch her? He said nothing, just avoided eye contact, and walked out of the nursery. That night I sat beside Mia's crib, watching her sleep. A knot forming in my chest. Something was wrong. Something wasn't adding up. And by the third night, when Mia screamed before he even stepped inside the room, I felt a kind of fear I'd never felt before. Not for her, but because of him. So, I did something I never thought I'd do as a wife. I bought a small, hidden baby camera. I placed it behind a stuffed bear. And I told myself it was just to ease my mind. But deep inside, I knew I was preparing to catch a truth I wasn't ready for. A truth I feared might destroy my entire home. Great, continuing exactly in the same tone, same rules. For the first time in months, I left Mia alone with Daniel. Not because I trusted him, but because I needed proof. I'm just running to the store, I said casually. His jaw tightened. He wasn't expecting it. You're leaving her with me? His tone wasn't relief. It was fear. Yes, I said, forcing a smile. You're her father. He didn't say anything after that. Just nodded too quickly. Too nervously. That was my second warning sign. The moment I closed the door, I stood outside in the driveway pretending to check my phone, while my heart pounded so loudly it hurt. I watched the live camera feed. The bear's button, I blinked green. It was recorded. Daniel picked Mia up. She cried instantly. But this time, the cry wasn't the usual sharp panic. It was familiar. Like she knew what was coming. Daniel didn't come for her. He didn't rock her gently, like any father would. He froze. Then he whispered, "Please don't start. Not again. Not today." It wasn't anger. It was fear. Deep, trembling fear. My hands shook. Why would a grown man be afraid of his own baby? I kept watching. He placed her back in the crib and backed away, like he was scared she might explode. Then it happened. He sank to the floor, covered his face with both hands, and whispered something that made my blood turn cold. "I'm sorry." I didn't mean to. I didn't know she was there. My heart stopped. Didn't mean to what? Didn't know where she was? Mia wasn't even crawling yet. What could he possibly mean? I replayed the audio twice. 3 times. My brain refused to process it. He wasn't hurting her. That much was clear. This wasn't the cry of pain. This was something deeper. Something older. Something she remembered. A memory she shouldn't even have. I walked back inside. I opened the door quietly, so he wouldn't hear me. Daniel immediately stood up, wiping his face like a child caught doing something wrong. "How was the store?" he asked. "I didn't go," I said flatly. "I forgot my wallet." He froze. Mia stayed quiet in the crib for the first time that day. She wasn't crying. She was watching him. Her tiny eyes locked on him like she expected him to disappear. Or like she remembered something I didn't. I picked her up. Daniel stepped back. Not the reaction of a father feeling replaced. The reaction of a man who was guilty. Of something he was terrified would come out. That night, everything shifted. Daniel didn't sleep. He paced around the house. Checked all the locks. Closed every curtain. He jumped at small noises. The wind, the faucet, the fridge clicking. I stayed awake too, holding Mia close. At 2:14 a.m., when he finally sat on the couch with his head in his hands, I walked into the living room and whispered, "Daniel, what did you mean when you said you didn't know she was there?" His head shot up. His face went white. He whispered only one sentence. The sentence that shattered the ground beneath me. I think Mia remembers something about me that happened before she was born." His words hit me like a storm. Mia remembers something about me. I felt my spine turn to ice. "Daniel, babies don't remember before birth." He looked at me with hollow, sleepless eyes. "That's what scares me," he whispered, "because what she reacts to happened before she ever took her first breath." My grip tightened on Mia. "Daniel, just tell me what happened." He swallowed hard. His fingers trembled so violently I could hear them tapping against the couch. It was the night of the accident. My heart dropped. What accident? He closed his eyes like the memory itself was suffocating him. "The night your sister died." My breath stopped. It felt like the room tilted. "My sister?" My voice came out thin, weak, barely a whisper. "Daniel, you told me you weren't even there that night." He shook his head slowly. "Elite." Every part of my body went numb. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to hate me." My pulse throbbed in my ears. "What did you do?" He stared at the floor. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I swear to God, it was an accident. She stepped into the road while I was turning. I didn't see her. By the time I hit the brakes, he didn't finish." My entire chest caved in. "You killed my sister?" I could barely speak. He didn't deny it. He didn't defend himself. He just whispered, "I didn't know she was pregnant." The room went silent. Everything inside me cracked open. "What did you say?" He finally looked up at me, eyes wet, voice shaking. "She was pregnant, Ava, 2 months. I only found out after. That's why Mia cries when she sees me. It's like she knows the man who took her aunt's life and the life inside her." My knees almost buckled. "Are you saying—" "I think Mia remembers her," he whispered, "because you two look alike. And every time she sees me, she cries like she's mourning something she can't explain." My skin prickled. Goosebumps crawled up my arms. This wasn't a simple betrayal. This wasn't just guilt. This was a soul-deep memory. Pain passed through blood. An echo of a life that never got to exist. But the twist had only begun. The hidden truth. I stared at him, stunned, shaking, shattered. "If you hit her with the car, why didn't anyone know? Why wasn't there a police report? Why weren't you arrested?" He looked away. "That's the part you don't know." A chill moved through my bones. "One witness stepped forward that night," he said slowly. "She swore she saw a man in a hoodie push your sister into the street. The case didn't fall on me. It turned into a hit-and-run investigation for someone else." My mouth dropped open. "Who?" Daniel hesitated. "A man she was arguing with. A man who threatened her. A man she believed was stalking her." My hands tightened around Mia. My head pounded. "Daniel, who are you talking about?" He whispered the name, and my world collapsed again. "Your father." My heart didn't just drop. It fell through the floor. "My father?" I could barely breathe. "You're saying my father was there the night she died?" Daniel's voice trembled. "He wasn't just there. Ava, she was running from him." My vision blurred. My chest tightened until it hurt. "No, you must be confused. My father would never." Daniel cut me off, voice breaking. "He was the one she said was stalking her. She told people she felt unsafe around him, that he knew things about her private life, things he shouldn't." I shook my head uncontrollably. "No, no." My dad loved her. He loved us." Daniel leaned forward, his voice low and raw. He loved control. A cold shiver ran through me. "What exactly are you saying?" He didn't look away. "I'm saying your sister was pregnant, and she told someone the baby wasn't from a boyfriend. She told someone the father was a married man." I froze. A buzzing silence filled my ears. "You think she was—" "Ava," Daniel whispered. "Your dad was the only married man she saw regularly. The only one who always brought her gifts. The only one she always avoided when he came too close." My hand started shaking so hard I almost dropped Mia. But then something even stranger hit me. Mia wasn't crying. Not this time. Not while I was talking about my father. She was silent, wide-eyed, alert, listening. A chill crawled down my neck. Ava, think about it, Daniel said. Why does she cry around me? Because I was there. I hit the car. The pavement, the scream. She remembers the accident. He paused. But why is she silent now when we talk about your father? I swallowed hard. Because she's scared of you, I whispered. No. His voice cracked. She's scared of him. The missing piece. I felt nauseous. Daniel, if my father was involved, why didn't anyone tell me? He exhaled slowly. Because your mother covered it up. My stomach twisted. My mom? She told the police your father was home. She convinced your sister's friends that she was lying about being stalked. She said your sister had episodes. I felt sick. My mother would never do that. Daniel looked at me, eyes full of painful honesty. Ava, you know she protects him. She always has. My mind began piecing together memories I had buried for years. The arguments. The secrets. The nights my sister came home crying. The days she moved out suddenly, refusing to tell me why. Everything started aligning like broken glass, forming a picture. And then Daniel said the one thing that shattered me completely. Your sister wasn't running from me that night, Ava. She was running from your father. And I hit her after she stumbled into the road. I felt like screaming. But something else snapped inside me first. Rage. Pure, hot, uncontrollable rage. And then the camera notification pinged. My phone buzzed suddenly. Not a message. Not a call. A push notification. Motion detected. Nursery camera. My blood ran cold. I wasn't in the nursery. Daniel wasn't in the nursery. No one should be in the nursery. Are the windows open? Daniel whispered. No. We both froze. Mia stiffened in my arms. Her tiny fingers curled into my shirt. Her breathing changed, sharp, fast, frightened. Like she recognized the presence before I did. Daniel grabbed my wrist. Play the footage. My hands trembled as I tapped the notification. The live feed opened. The camera tilted, slowly, smoothly, deliberately, like someone was moving it with their hand. Then a figure stepped partially into frame. A shoulder. An arm. A familiar shirt. My father's shirt. I dropped the phone. Mia started screaming. Daniel whispered, voice trembling. It's him. My whole body went numb. The man adjusting the camera. The familiar shirt. The slow, deliberate way he moved. It was my father. Inside my house. Inside my baby's room. My throat tightened like a fist had closed around it. Daniel whispered, barely audible. Ava, he's been inside your home before. Look at the angle of the crib. That camera didn't move by itself today. I felt dizzy. How did he get in? My voice cracked like dry wood. Daniel stared at the screen. He has a key. My mouth fell open. No, that key is only for me, and I froze. My mother. She had asked for a spare house key months ago, just in case. My hands started shaking violently as another horrifying realization slammed through me. He didn't come here for the camera, I whispered, voice trembling. He came here for her. For Mia. Daniel's jaw clenched. He thinks she knows something. Or she reminds him of something. I swallowed hard. Of my sister. He nodded. She cried every time he got near her. Her instincts never lied. Suddenly, Mia began screaming harder than ever before, like the sound was tearing straight from her soul. She wanted out. She wanted away. But away from what? The footsteps. A soft creak traveled through the house. Then another. Heavy. Slow. Measured. Coming down the hallway. Toward the living room. Toward us. Daniel straightened. Ava, get behind me. I held Mia tightly against my chest, her scream muffled by my shoulder. The footsteps grew closer. And then I heard it. My father's voice. Calm. Casual. Chilling. Ava? Sweetheart? Are you home? My heart hammered so hard I thought he could hear it. Daniel whispered. He doesn't know I'm here. That's good. Another step. Another. He was heading straight toward the door. Daniel stepped in front of me, planting himself like a wall. Stay back. Don't let him see the baby's fear. If he realizes she remembers. The footsteps stopped outside the door. A pause. Then a gentle knock. Ava, he repeated softly. I want to talk. Daniel mouthed, "Don't answer." But my father didn't wait. The doorknob turned. The door swung open. He stepped inside, smiling, as if nothing in the world was wrong. The lie he tried to sell me. "Sweetheart," he said, eyes softening when he saw me. "Why didn't you answer?" "I've been worried." Daniel stepped forward, blocking his path. My father's expression shifted, just for a second. A flicker, a shadow. Then he smiled again. "Ava," he said calmly, eyes moving past Daniel. "Why is he here?" Daniel didn't move an inch. "She knows," he said quietly. My father blinked. "Know what?" "That you were in the nursery," Daniel said. "That you were there the night her sister died." A slow, chilling silence filled the room. My father looked at Daniel, then at me, then at the baby in my arms. His smile faded, and the real face emerged. Cold, empty, predatory. "Ava," he said slowly, "you've always been emotional. You misread things. You imagine things." He took a step toward me. Mia shrieked. Not a normal cry. A cry of recognition. A cry of pure terror. My father froze. His eyes flicked to Mia, then sharpened. He whispered, "She remembers." Daniel stepped forward. "Stay away from them." My father raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just want to talk to my daughter." "Then talk from where you're standing," Daniel growled. My father stared at him, and something dark twisted across his face. "You hit my car with her in it," he said softly. "Do you know how long I've waited to speak to the man who ruined everything?" Daniel didn't flinch. "You were chasing her." My father's jaw twitched. "I was trying to bring her home." "No," Daniel said, voice low and lethal. "You were trying to silence her." My father's eyes snapped to mine. "Ava," he said softly, "don't listen to him. You know me. You know I would never." I stepped back. For the first time in my life, he looked like a stranger. A dangerous one. "Ava," he repeated, voice trembling. "Give me the baby." My blood turned to ice. Daniel stepped between us again. "You're done," he whispered. "She's not going anywhere with you." My father's face changed completely. "No worms. No smile. No mask." Only one terrifying truth left. He wanted my baby, and he wasn't going to walk away without her. I didn't sleep the night. I found the hidden bruise on my baby's arm. And when morning finally came, the air inside the house felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding secrets I couldn't see. Mark didn't speak to me. He didn't even look at the baby. He stayed in the living room, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor, like a man carrying something he couldn't say. But I wasn't thinking about him anymore. I was thinking about the camera, the one I hid, the one that had been recording all night, the one that, if my instincts were right, would finally tell me the truth. My hands were shaking as I picked up the memory card. I walked to the bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. The moment I clicked play, I held my breath. At first, nothing. Just the soft glow of the nightlight, the crib, the gentle rise and fall of my baby's tiny chest. Then, around 2:43 a.m., something changed. Mark entered the room, but he didn't walk in normally. He stumbled, like someone had pushed him from behind. He looked around the nursery with confusion, then fear, as if expecting something to jump out at him. He whispered something, but the audio was too low. And then, he froze. Completely. His shoulders tensed, his back straightened, and slowly, his head turned toward the crib. But it wasn't a normal turn. It was stiff, unnatural, like his body wasn't moving by choice. My heart started pounding. The baby opened her eyes. Not slowly, not lazily, but wide, sharply, like she sensed him before she saw him. And then, she began to cry, screaming. The same scream I had been hearing for weeks. But here was the part that made every drop of blood in my body go cold. Mark didn't move toward her. He moved back, step by step, as if something near the crib was pushing him away. Then, he spoke, but not in his voice. The voice on the camera was deeper, strained, almost like someone else was speaking through him. "She knows," he whispered. "She remembers." I covered my mouth, unable to breathe. Remember what? And then, my baby stopped crying. She stared at him, not like an infant, like she understood him. My entire body went numb, but nothing prepared me for what happened in the final 10 seconds of the footage. Because the camera, my own camera, captured something behind Mark. A shadow.
Tall.
Motionless. Human-shaped, but not human. Mark never saw it. But my baby did. Her eyes didn't follow Mark. Her eyes followed the shadow behind him. And at the exact second the shadow moved, Mark screamed. The same scream that woke me up that night. The video ended. And I realized something horrifying. The problem wasn't just Mark. Something else was inside my house. Something my baby could sense. Something Mark couldn't escape.
And I
had no idea who to protect anymore. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember unlocking the bedroom door. I don't even remember walking into the hallway. All I remember is the weight. The weight of knowing the truth wasn't just about Mark anymore. Something else lived here. Something that watched my child at night. Something that stood behind my husband like it owned him. And worst of all, something my baby recognized. My hands were ice cold when I stepped into the living room. Mark was sitting exactly where I'd left him, but now he looked worse. His skin is pale, his eyes unfocused, like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't notice me at first, but when he finally lifted his head, there was terror in his eyes. Not guilt, not anger, terror. Mark, my voice trembled. What happened in the nursery last night? His lips parted, but the moment he tried to speak, his body jerked. Violently, as if someone had yanked invisible strings attached to him. He grabbed the edge of the couch, knuckles turning white. I can't, he stuttered, voice trembling. I can't say it. I stepped closer. Then let me help you. I know something is wrong. I saw it. His jaw dropped slightly. You saw it? I nodded. He swallowed hard, his throat bobbing. Then he whispered the last thing I expected. It's not the first time. A chill ran through me. What do you mean? He shut his eyes, chest heaving as if fighting something inside him. I never told you because I thought it was in my head. The night our baby was born, I felt it, like something else came home with us. My heart stopped. Not from fear, from clarity. My baby didn't cry around every person. She cried around him, because she could sense what he couldn't explain. Mark, I said slowly, what exactly have you felt? He hesitated. His pupils shrank. His breath hitched. Then, he looked past me.
Not at me. Through me.
Don't turn around, he whispered. My entire body seized. But I felt it. The cold. The unnatural stillness. The presence, heavy enough to bend the air. It was behind me. Watching. Just like in the camera footage. Mark's voice cracked as he forced the words out. It stands over the crib at night. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it moves me. Sometimes it uses me. A tear slid down my cheek. Mark, is it hurting our baby? He shook his head frantically. No, that's the worst part. It doesn't want the baby. It wants. His body jerked again, violently this time. His head snapped to the side like someone yanked him by the hair. Mark. I rushed toward him. But he lifted his hand sharply. Not stopping me. Warning me. His voice dropped to a whisper that didn't sound like him. It doesn't want the baby. His eyes rolled back. White, empty. It wants you. The lamp on the table flickered. The baby monitor crackled. The air behind me grew colder. And in that moment, I knew the shadow wasn't just haunting my house. It was coming for me. Mark's eyes were still rolled back. His chest rising and falling like he was drowning in air. And the presence behind me, it felt closer. Like if I moved even an inch, it would move too. My voice cracked. Mark, look at me. Please look at me. His head snapped forward so violently, I almost screamed. His eyes were normal again. Dilated, terrified, human. It wants you, he repeated, voice shaking. For months, it's been trying to get closer. Every time you walked past it, it followed. Every night you sleep, I watched it. I felt sick. Why me? I whispered. His face collapsed into guilt. Because of something I did. My lungs froze. What? Did you do it? He didn't answer immediately. He covered his face with his hands. His breaths came out in sharp, broken sobs. This started before the baby, he whispered. Before the nursery cameras, before crying. Something inside me twisted violently.
Mark.
Tell me. He dropped his hands. And the expression on his face. It wasn't just guilt. It was horrible. Remember last year, he said slowly, When you were in the hospital for that surgery?
My heart slammed.
Yes. He looked at the wall, anywhere but me. There was a nurse, he said, voice barely audible. She kept telling me she could help, that she knew ways to protect you. She said you were in danger, that something was coming for you. A cold, creeping dread slid down my spine. What kind of nurse? I whispered. Mark shook his head, trembling. She wasn't like a normal nurse. She knew things about you. Your childhood, your nightmares, your mother's death. Stuff I had never told anyone. He swallowed hard. She said if I let her do a ritual, she could bind the threat. Keep it away from you forever. My stomach twisted. Mark, what ritual? He covered his mouth like he might vomit. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. She told me to give her something of yours. My hands curled. What did you give her? He didn't speak. He just looked at me with eyes full of shame. And I already knew. Mark. I choked. What did you give her? His voice cracked open. Your hair. From your brush. She said it was enough. I stepped back like I'd been physically hit. A ritual. Done by a stranger who knew too much. Using something that belonged to me. Mark. I whispered. What happened after that? He shook his head violently. She lit candles. She said she was binding your shadow. But something went wrong. The temperature in the room dropped instantly. Even Mark felt it. His breath fogging in the air. It didn't bind your shadow, he whispered. Then he looked behind me, slowly, as if something was rising. It released it. My knees almost gave out. The shadow wasn't here randomly. It wasn't haunting my baby. It was here for me. Because Mark gave a stranger my hair. Because she woke something that was never supposed to be touched. I backed away, shaking. Where is she now, that nurse? Mark swallowed. I don't know. She vanished right after. But she told me one thing before she left. My voice barely worked. What did she say? His eyes filled with tears. She said, it won't stop until she remembers. A sharp ringing filled my ears. Remember what? He pointed behind me, his face twisting in terror. That thing, that shadow, isn't here to hurt you. He swallowed hard. It's here to finish what you started. A cold, invisible hand brushed the back of my neck. And for the first time, I felt it. I remembered it. Not fully, but enough to know. This wasn't the first time it had found me. The moment the cold touch grazed the back of my neck, something inside me snapped open. Like a door I had spent my entire life keeping locked. A memory.
Faint.
Fragmented.
Wrong.
I staggered forward, clutching the wall. Mark reached for me. What's happening? What are you remembering? I wasn't even sure. But I knew one thing. This shadow, this thing, wasn't new. It had been here before. A long time ago. My voice came out thin and trembling. Mark, I think I've seen it before. His face was drained of color. When, he asked. And that's when the first memory hit me like ice water. A girl's bedroom. A small night light. A stuffed bear. My own tiny hands shaking under a blanket. I felt the words leave me before I even knew them. When I was a child. Mark's jaw clenched. He looked terrified, but he forced himself to stay calm. What happened? What do you remember? I closed my eyes. I saw it clearly. A shadow standing in the doorway. Watching. Silent. Still. Patient. Waiting. Not moving like a person, but sliding. Gliding. Like darkness poured into a shape. I used to wake up at night, I whispered. I told my mother something was in my room. That something was watching me. Mark leaned in. What did she say? Tears stung my eyes. She told me to ignore it. She said, it's only here because of what you did. Mark stiffened. What did you do? My stomach twisted. I don't remember. I don't. But then the second memory slammed into me. I was outside. A little girl, barefoot, in a backyard overgrown with weeds. Holding something. A small wooden box. I felt that same cold hand on my back as the memory deepened. I buried something, I whispered. There was a box. I buried it behind our old house. Mark's breath hitched. What was in the box? I shook my head violently. I don't know. I don't want to know. But the shadow behind me seemed to hum, a vibrating pressure in the air, as if urging me to remember faster. Then Mark grabbed my shoulders. Wait. Your mother's journal. My heart stopped. My mom kept a journal? I choked. He nodded slowly. I found it in the attic months ago. I didn't tell you because there were things written in it about you. Things that didn't make sense. A cold wave washed over me. What kind of things? He swallowed. She wrote that you weren't supposed to remember the binding. That if you ever did, the shadow connected to you would wake up for good. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. Mark, I whispered. What did she mean by connected? He looked at me with pure fear. That it isn't following your baby.
Or me.
It's been attached to you your entire life. The room seemed to tilt. Attached to me. Since childhood. Waiting. Patient. Mark grabbed his phone with shaking hands and started scrolling like a madman. What are you doing? I asked. I took pictures of the journal before I put it away. You need to see this. He turned the screen toward me. It was a page from a diary. My mother's handwriting, shaky and frantic. One line jumped out like a knife. She made the deal without understanding the cost. I stared at it, feeling the floor fall away. She who? I whispered. Mark swiped to the next picture. This time the handwriting was almost illegible. Panicked, slanted, desperate. If she remembers the box, the shadow will claim what was promised. I felt my throat close.
Claim.
What was promised? What I promised. A choked sound escaped me. Mark, what did I promise? Before he could answer, the baby monitor crackled. A soft whimper. A shaky cry. Then, a whisper. A whisper coming through the monitor. Come finish what you started. Mark and I froze. My heart stopped completely. That wasn't the baby. That wasn't a glitch. That was a voice.
Cold.
Velvety.
Familiar.
Because it was the same voice from my childhood nightmares. The same voice that visited me in the dark. The same voice I had forgotten. Mark grabbed my hand. We're not going in there alone. We need help. We need someone who understands this. But I already knew. No one could help me. This wasn't Mark's haunting. This wasn't the baby's curse. This was mine. And the only person who knew the truth was dead. Unless the shadow wasn't here to hurt us, but to remind me, to force me to remember the night I made the deal. The night I buried the box. The night I accidentally invited something into my life. Something that wanted its payment now. I didn't sleep the night I arrived in my hometown. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, the image returned. The same one haunting me for days. My baby trembling. My baby is crying. My baby was staring behind me as if something was standing there. Something only he could see. And now, after everything I uncovered about my childhood, after finding the missing journal page, after seeing my own handwriting begging some unseen thing for protection, there was only one place left to go. The backyard. The old willow tree. And the wooden box I buried when I was 7. I stepped outside at dawn. The grass was wet. The sky is gray. But the tree, that same willow tree, still stood tall on the far side of the yard. Its shape felt familiar, but not comforting. Almost like it was waiting for me. I carried a small shovel with shaking hands. Every step toward that tree felt heavier, as if the air thickened around me. By the time I reached the roots, I was already breathing hard. The exact spot came to me like a memory someone had pressed into my skull. 3 steps left of the trunk. 2 steps forward. Dig where the earth feels softer. I knelt, pushed the shovel into the ground, and immediately stopped. Because the soil, it wasn't just soft. It was fresh. Like someone had already been digging here. Recently, my heartbeat slammed against my ribs. But I kept digging. Each scoop of soil felt like peeling back layers of my own forgotten childhood. Finally, after almost 20 minutes, the shovel hit something wooden. A small wooden box. Dusty. Weathered. Carved with little stars and flowers. My breath caught. I wiped off the dirt and lifted it out of the ground. It wasn't locked. Just tied with an old piece of twine. Hands shaking, I untied it and opened it. Inside were 3 objects, and each one made my skin crawl. 1. A child's crayon drawing. My drawing. I am 7 years old. But not alone. The picture showed a girl, me, standing under the willow tree, and holding hands with a tall, black, faceless figure. It towered over me. Its fingers stretched long, curling down toward my small hand. Above our heads, in messy kid handwriting. My friend. My stomach flipped. I had drawn this. I had forgotten this. Or I had been made to forget. 2. A broken black bracelet. I touched it gently. Instantly, a flash hit me, a memory too quick to fully grab. A woman crying. Me screaming. A shadow in the doorway. A voice whispering. A deal is a deal. I jerked my hand back. Sweat gathered on my palms. The bracelet looked handmade, thread twined with something sharp and dark, almost like charred hair. A shiver ran up my spine. 3. A folded note. The paper was yellow with age. My own childish handwriting filled the page. But the words, God, the words didn't sound like anything a child should write. Please protect me from her. I don't want to be taken. I promise you can have whatever you want. Just keep her away. Protect me from her? Who was her? My mother? Someone else? The thing that followed me? I read it again. One line at the bottom was scribbled darker than the rest, as if my 7-year-old self carved into the paper. I agree. My chest tightened. I whispered into the empty yard. Agree to what? What did I agree to? And then, the air behind me shifted.
Slow.
Cold.
Dense.
It felt like a breath on the back of my neck. I froze. My fingers tightened around the box. Then, a familiar, subtle cry echoed from inside the house. My baby. Not a loud cry. A frightened one. The same kind he made when the shadow came near.
I shot to my feet and ran.
Inside the house, my mother stood in the hallway. But it wasn't her expression that scared me. It was her eyes.
Cold.
Detached. Terrified of me, but also angry at the same time. She whispered, "You shouldn't have opened it." My blood turned to ice. What did I agree to? I demanded. My voice cracked. Why did I write that? What deal was I running from? Her eyes filled with tears, but not soft tears. Guilty tears. Tears of someone who had been waiting decades for this moment. She stepped closer and said the sentence that ripped the floor out from under me. Because the thing is following your baby was never meant to follow him. My throat closed. What are you talking about? Her voice shook. It came for you. You made the deal. Not him. My knees nearly buckled. She continued, voice trembling. You promised it. Anything at all. And it waited all these years for you to come back. My baby cried again from the bedroom. Louder. More desperate. I felt something move down the hallway like a thick shadow dragging itself across the floor. No, I whispered, backing away. No, it wants him. It's been hurting him. My mother shook her head violently.
No.
It's not trying to hurt him. She looked at me with crushing sadness. It's trying to get to you. My stomach dropped. The pieces snapped together with horrifying clarity. My baby cried, not because the shadow wanted him, but because the shadow always appeared behind me. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for me. He wasn't warning me about my husband, or a threat in the house. He was warning me about the thing that had followed me since childhood. The thing I sold a piece of myself to. The thing I had tried to bury under the willow tree. A chill went through my entire body. Because finally, I understood. The shadow had never left. It had been waiting. And now that I had returned home, it wanted what I promised. The night my mother said those words, "You shouldn't have opened it." The house felt smaller, like breath left in the walls. I held the little wooden box against my chest as if the pieces inside could still fix what the past had broken. Tell me, I said. Tell me everything. No lies. She looked at me with a face that had been carved by years of carrying something too heavy. Her hands trembled when she reached for mine. There was a long, impossible pause, like she was digging through memory the way I had dug through earth. It wasn't meant to be evil, she said at last. Not then. Not the way you think. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the truth from her like you'd tear a bandage off too slow. Instead, I listened. Because after digging up a box of childhood promises under the willow, listening was the only way forward. She told me about a woman, no, not a nurse at first, but a stranger who came to our town when I was very small. People called her many names, a healer, a clairvoyant, a woman who knew things. My little 7-year-old ears had heard her described as a helper. My mother had been desperate. My father, your father, she said, and the words tasted bitter, was spiraling with the kind of darkness you don't fix with doctors. He showed up sometimes with a face that scared people. My sister who died, was upset, terrified even. She slept with the curtains closed. My mother, exhausted and afraid, took me to see the woman. She promised protection, my mother murmured. She said she could keep whatever was hunting us away. She said she could make the house safe. This was the first lie in a chain of worse ones, protection that had a price. You were 7, my mother said. You believed the woman. You wanted to be safe. I promised you I would do everything to keep you safe. My throat tightened, because in the boxes and journals and the bruised small things of our life, the truth was never clean. The stranger, Madame Rowan, that was her name in the note, young me had written, was clever. She wrapped her ritual in stories and lullabies so a child could agree without understanding. She put coals in an old pan, sang a chant that smelled of iron and lemon, and told me to promise. She told me to promise, over and over, on a small scrap of paper, with my own hand. I had promised to give whatever she wanted if she would keep the thing away. My mother's voice broke when she said it. I thought it would keep the stalking away. I thought it would keep you safe from your father. I agreed because I thought if you were quiet and the thing stayed with me, at least you would live without thinking about it every night. So, I made a child's promise. My mother had given permission. The ritual was performed. The box was buried, as if you could bury a bargain like a bone, and expect it to rot away. What did she want? I asked. My mother swallowed. She never said it straight. She called it something to hold you fast to life. She said she takes what she's promised when she's owed. Later, I learned she meant bloodlines. The way she put it to me, soft as pity, was that she takes what the family would give first as proof the deal was kept. A thing like that, she said, wants what you love most. A silence swallowed us. The night hummed in the walls. So she bound it to me, I said slowly. Because I promised. Because you promised, my mother echoed. And because I let you. I was trying to keep you safe from your father. I thought if I gave it something small, it would leave you alone. You gave it my life, I whispered. The words were hot and small. But then, she continued through tears, the woman cheated both of us. She kept coming back, asking for more. People died. Promises were bent. The woman vanished after a few years, ran off with money, or maybe she walked away because she was satisfied. I told myself it was over. I buried the box and believed you'd forget. I told people your nightmares were just nightmares. I hid the clay pieces, the burned bracelet. I thought that would be the end. Now the pieces fit together in a way that made me nauseous. The ritual hadn't made whatever haunted us go away. It had delayed it and made it patient. But why the baby? I demanded. Why Mia? Why now? My mother's hands found my face like she needed me to see her. Because the promise binds to your line. When you had a child, when you fell pregnant, that promise woke up again. The thing was owed. It woke up and began looking for payment. It doesn't care about living the way we do. It knows how blood works. It follows the promise like a ledger. Then why did Mark's voice change? Why did he get used as a vessel? I asked. Why the nurse? Why did someone else perform rituals later? My mother's eyes were hollow. Madame Rowan's apprentice stayed in town. When she saw the shadow wake, she offered to help. She claimed she could rebalance it if someone gave a token of the promise, something tied to you. It was, she said, an insurance policy. Mark, desperate and stupid and in love, used his own hands and the nurse's incantation to try to redirect the thing. He thought if he offered something from you, the shadow would be satisfied and stop haunting you. He was never wise in the ways of promises. He was always trying to fix things with quick trades. I felt like I had been punched in 1,000 small places. My husband had tried, perhaps with the best intentions, and released the thing from its shallow binding. He had handed it a key and set it loose to look for full payment. So, what now? My voice cracked like ice. How do we stop it? My mother closed her eyes as if in prayer, and for the first time since I'd been a small girl, she said what she had never allowed herself to say aloud. The only way to end a bargain like that is to finish it properly. To give it what it asks. Or to undo the promise. Bind it again on different terms, but this time with truth, your consent, your naming of what it may take. But that costs more than I can bear to think about. She reached into the inner pocket of her cardigan and pulled out a single, brittle scrap, a page from Madame Rowan's own ledger, something she'd stolen from the woman years ago. The handwriting was sharp and clear, a formula for binding, and a line that froze my blood. A promise may be returned by the bloodline that made it if the maker confesses the true name before the ode is claimed. Confess a true name. Name the thing. Own the promise. You can undo it, my mother whispered, but you must speak it. You must stand in the circle that made the bargain and say with your voice that you rescind what a child once promised. You must give the price that the thing refuses to take back. It will ask for a debt. Sometimes it asks for a thing, sometimes it asks for memory, sometimes it asks for the self. What does it want from me? I asked, because the air had gone thick. She looked at me with eyes that had held 1,000 regrets. It will ask you to choose between what you promised and what you love. People who make bargains as children never fully understand the cost. You promised to give it what you would give first. It will test you. It will come to your baby because she's the most precious thing you have now. But it wants payment from the line, you. If you answer truthfully, if you name yourself and take back the bargain, it might leave your child. It might take pain instead. Or memory. Or, she broke off because the words themselves felt obscene. Outside, the willow creaked like a sob. I looked down at the wooden box and the child's handwriting that had sold me. I thought of Mia's tiny hands, of the way she reached for me at night, of the breath that smelled like milk and newness. Or to undo the promise, bind it again on different terms, but this time with truth, your consent, your naming of what it may take. But that costs more than I can bear to think about. She reached into the inner pocket of her cardigan and pulled out a single, brittle scrap, a page from Madame Rowan's own ledger, something she'd stolen from the woman years ago. The handwriting was sharp and clear, a formula for binding, and a line that froze my blood. A promise may be returned by the bloodline that made it if the maker confesses the true name before the ode is claimed. Confess a true name. Name the thing. Own the promise. You can undo it, my mother whispered, but you must speak it. You must stand in the circle that made the bargain and say with your voice that you rescind what a child once promised. You must give the price that the thing refuses to take back. It will ask for a debt. Sometimes it asks for a thing, sometimes it asks for memory, sometimes it asks for the self. What does it want from me? I asked, because the air had gone thick. She looked at me with eyes that had held 1,000 regrets. It will ask you to choose between what you promised and what you love. People who make bargains as children never fully understand the cost. You promised to give it what you would give first. It will test you. It will come to your baby because she's the most precious thing you have now. But it wants payment from the line, you. If you answer truthfully, if you name yourself and take back the bargain, it might leave your child. It might take pain instead. Or memory. Or, she broke off because the words themselves felt obscene. Outside, the willow creaked like a sob. I looked down at the wooden box and the child's handwriting that had sold me. I thought of Mia's tiny hands, of the way she reached for me at night, of the breath that smelled like milk and newness. I thought of the lullabies my husband hummed, the ones that had frozen him, and of the nurse's candles. I thought of my mother, who had covered for a father who struck fear in people, and of a stranger who took advantage of a frightened family. The bargain system had been built on fear. It was time to face it with the opposite. I'll do it, I said. My mother's hand shook against mine. If you choose to end it, remember, once you name it, you will remember everything. The nights, the men, the words you buried with the box. You will see the truth plainly. And after that, nothing can be undone. I looked at the crib in my mind, at my sleeping child, at the shadow that hummed like a bell. I swallowed like I was passing glass. Then tell me what to do, I said. I will stand in that circle. I will say my name. I will take my debt. My mother nodded as if I had finally freed her of a weight she'd held too long. Outside, the willow bent in the wind like someone bowing to a beginning that had to be faced. The bargain that had haunted my life was waking up, and I would name it myself or watch it claim the price it wanted. The wind outside felt wrong. Not cold, Gaware. Like something old was inhaling through the branches of the willow tree, waiting for me to step outside. My mother stood behind me, clutching the brittle page from Madame Rowan's ledger as if it were the last piece of truth she could offer. The circle had already been marked. Old ash, black salt, and the faint smell of lemon and iron. The same materials used the night the bargain was first made. I stepped into the center. My heart thudded, not in my chest but in my throat, like it wanted to run before I did. Once you start, My mother whispered from the edge of the circle. You can't step out. Not until it answers. Not until you name it. Tell me what to say, I whispered. You don't speak to call it, she replied. You speak to claim your identity. Then it comes on its own. She pressed the page into my hand. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of years I hadn't lived yet. I am the child who made the promise. I call back what I gave. I claim the right to speak about the debt owed by my name. As I spoke the last word, the air rippled. Not like wind, like breath. The willow branches stopped moving entirely, frozen in a posture that looked eerily like anticipation. The shadows along the grass thickened, deepened, pulling toward the circle as if gravity had reversed. My stomach nodded. My mother backed away. And then I heard it. A single, soft cry. My daughter's cry. Except she was inside the house, asleep, safe, and this cry came from the darkness behind the tree. Don't turn. My mother's voice was thin, trembling. Not yet. It's testing you. But the cry. God. It sounded just like Mia's first whimper when she woke hungry. Every part of me pulled toward it. I stayed still. Then the ground darkened, as though the earth itself exhaled something centuries old. Something stepped just close enough that I could hear it breathing, slow, rhythmic, patient. A voice followed. Not like Mark's changed voice, not like the nurse's chant. This voice sounded like it was wearing my memory, stitching it into sound. You called me, it whispered. My skin crawled. My hand shook so hard the paper crinkled in waves. What do I do? I whispered. You answer the question, my mother replied. The air grew sharp and metallic. The voice circled me, dragging invisible fingers along the boundary of the salt and ash. Who are you? It asked. I swallowed hard. My name is... No, my mother said sharply from the shadows. Not your everyday name. The name it wants is not what people call you. It's the name tied to the promise. The name of the child you were. Your fear. Your innocence. The name you wrote on that paper. I looked down at the wooden box beside my feet. The lid had cracked open. Inside, beneath the scraps of childhood drawings and the ribbon pieces, was the tiny paper I had written as a child. My handwriting, shaky, crooked, stared back at me. A name I hadn't used in decades. A nickname my father had given me before everything turned dark. A name that belonged to a little girl who believed in magic and lullaby monsters and bargains whispered in fear.
I spoke about it.
The circle shuddered. Something entered it. The air warped, and suddenly the shadows folded upward into a shape. I didn't see a face. It didn't need one. It stood like a memory does, familiar in shape, but impossible to grasp. The voice, when it spoke again, chilled the blood beneath my skin. You broke the silence. Now you owe. My breath hitched. What do you want? I managed. There was a pause. A long one, like it was smiling without a face. I want what you promised me first. My throat closed. My child, I whispered. It didn't answer with words. It answered by shifting. The shadows twisted into the small, unmistakable shape of a sleeping infant. My baby. My Mia. No, I said instantly, my chest seizing. You can't take her. You take for me, not her. I made the promise. I was the one tricked. She didn't. The shadow interrupted with a slow, rumbling hum, like approval or mockery. I couldn't tell. Then give me something of equal value. My mother sucked in her breath, recognizing the demand before I did. What does that mean? I asked, trembling. The shadow stepped closer, the circle shaking beneath its weight. Give me what you love most about yourself. The world tilted. What? I love myself. Your memory, it said. Your joy. Your voice. Your story. Your name. It wasn't asking for something physical. It wasn't asking for blood. It was asking for identity. My mother's voice cracked from somewhere behind me. It wants to erase the part of you that makes you you. That's the price for taking back the child's bargain. My knees almost buckled. I thought of Mia, her tiny fingers gripping my shirt, her sleepy breath against my neck, her laugh that sounded like sunlight.
She needed me.
She needed a mother who remembered her, loved her, held her. Not a hollow skin. But if I refused, the shadow's form shifted again, and the cry that came out this time was unmistakably Mia's newborn wail. My heart broke clean open. I won't let you take her, I whispered. The shadow leaned closer, listening. I'll pay the debt, I said. My voice didn't shake. It fractured. But I choose which part of me you take. Another long silence. Then, choose. I looked at the moon, at the willow tree, at the broken box, at all the versions of myself that had led me here. And I knew there was exactly one part of myself I could give away without risking my daughter's future. But saying it out loud would end everything I had ever been. My mother whispered urgently, think carefully. Once you speak it, it's irreversible. I closed my eyes and said the words. When the word left my mouth, it didn't feel like speaking. It felt like removing something, a thread pulling out of the fabric of who I was. The air inside the circle pulsed, a deep, heavy thud, as if the earth itself acknowledged the choice I'd made. My mother gasped behind me, not in shock, but in heartbreak, because she knew exactly what I'd sacrificed. The shadow stilled, flattened, listened. Then it whispered, accepted. A cold rush tore through me, not over my skin, but through my memories. It was like every moment in my childhood that had ever hurt, healed, or shaped me loosened.
Thinned. Went dim.
The part of me I'd offered. The only part one knew I could survive without losing my daughter. My childhood. All of it. The laughter. The rooms I grew up in. The smell of my father's workshop. The bedtime songs my mother used to hum. The day I first learned fear. The night I wrote that cursed bargain to keep the monster away. All of it. Lifted. Not gone in the sense of being erased, but gone in the sense of untethered. I could feel the memories leaving my body like breath in winter air, disappearing the second they touched the night. My mother sobbed softly. Sweetheart, you'll forget everything before you were 12, every part of your beginning. Her voice cracked. You'll forget him too. I knew she meant my father. I swallowed hard, steadying myself. If losing my childhood keeps my daughter safe, I whispered, then it's not a sacrifice. It's a trade. The shadow moved closer, and for the first time, it felt smaller, less monstrous, more like a dark outline of the little girl I once was. The girl who'd been afraid. The girl who'd begged the dark for protection. The girl who'd made the deal. She lifted her head, though she had no face, and whispered, debt paid. The ground silenced. The willow branches dropped. The air smoothed. Then, the shadow broke into dust and vanished into the dirt, like it had never existed. The circle went still. The night was just night again. I collapsed to my knees. My mother rushed in, pulling me into her arms. It's done, she whispered into my hair. The chain is broken. But the world around me felt different. Not unfamiliar. Just missing pieces. What did I forget? I asked quietly. My mother cupped my cheek. You forgot the beginning of your life, she said. But you didn't forget who you are now. You didn't forget your daughter. You didn't lose any part of the mother you've become. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. And Mark? I asked. Her expression darkened. That, she said slowly, is a question only the morning can answer. Because the shadow was gone. But the changes in him, the lies, the fear in Mia's crying, those had been symptoms, not the cause. And we still didn't know who or what had marked him the night he changed. As we walked back toward the house, the porch light cut through the dark. Mia's crying had stopped. Relief washed over me, until I stepped inside, and saw Mark standing in the hallway. He wasn't moving. He wasn't blinking. He was staring straight at Mia's room. His shoulders tightened when he sensed us behind him. He turned his head, too slowly. And then, he smiled. A smile I'd never seen on him before. Cold. Structured. Wrong. My mother's fingers dug into my arm. Don't go near him, she whispered sharply. Mark tilted his head, studying us. Then he spoke in a voice that did not belong in my husband's mouth. The debt you paid was not the only one owed. My blood froze. What does that mean? I whispered. He took a step forward. And then another. His eyes flickered, not dark, not glowing, but empty, like someone had wiped the color out of them. Then he said one last thing before the lights flickered out. Your husband made a promise too. The hallway lights flickered once, twice, then dimmed into a sickly yellow glow. Mark, or whatever was inside Mark, stood perfectly still. His body was my husband's, but nothing about the presence behind his eyes felt human. My mother pulled me slowly behind her, shielding me with a trembling arm. "Don't speak to it," she murmured under her breath. But it was too late. The thing wearing my husband's skin tilted its head like it was studying us. "He begged," it said, voice cracking like burnt wood. "He was on his knees when he made the promise." My stomach twisted. Mark begged who? It smiled, the same wrong, carved smile. "Me." My mother inhaled sharply. "That's impossible. The shadow is gone. The circle." The thing cut her off. "The circle broke your contract. Not his." My heart was hammered. "I didn't know he made a contract," I whispered. The thing stepped closer. Its voice lowered, almost mocking. "You." My knees buckled.
No, y whisperat.
"That's not true. Mark loves me." He loved you so much," the thing interrupted, "that losing you almost ended him. He was drowning in grief you caused, and he begged me to take it away." "Grief I caused?" My head spun. "What grief?" I cried. "Tell me what happened." It stepped backward slowly, like savoring my confusion. "You don't remember," it said softly, "because you paid with your childhood. And when that part of you vanished." It tapped Mark's chest. The memory tied to it vanished for him too. The air thickened. My mother whispered, voice trembling. "Child, think. Something from before you were 12. Something you forgot tonight." My mind strained. Nothing. Just fog. Then the thing whispered. "He asked me to erase the day he met you." My breath stopped. "What?" The thing tilted its head. "You met him long before you turned 12. Another step closer. You just don't remember." The house groaned with a sudden drop in temperature. "He was a boy," it continued. "Alone. Broken. The day he met you. You saved him from something dark." My pulse roared in my ears. But saving him meant inviting me. Its smile stretched. "Your fear that night tasted delicious." My knees weakened. My mother tightened her grip on my arm. "No more riddles," she demanded. What was their connection? The entity spoke clearly now, the first time its voice didn't waver. "You and your husband were bound to me long before you knew each other." A cold wave hit my spine. Mark suddenly shuddered, violently, like he was fighting something inside his own body. His eyes flickered, color returning for half a second. He tried to speak my name. Then the shadow slammed back in and silenced him. The entity's voice deepened. "His debt is still owed." "What debt?" I yelled. It smiled, almost tenderly. "The night your daughter was conceived, he made a vow." My heart stopped. "What vow?" Its eyes emptied into flat white, and in a voice colder than winter stone, it said, "He promised me his firstborn." The air collapsed around me. My mother clutched her chest. The hallway seemed to tilt.
No.
My whisper barely existed.
No.
He wouldn't. Mark would never. "He didn't do it for himself," it said calmly. "He did it for you." My vision blurred. "He believed it was the only way to keep you alive. To keep your curse from taking you first." Tears burned down my face. My mother let out a broken sob. The entity leaned in, inches from me now. "Your childhood paid for your curse. But his promise must still be kept." My body went cold. "What do you want?" I whispered. It smiled with absolute certainty. "The child." And then, a tiny sound broke the tension. A soft, trembling whimper. We all turned toward the nursery.
Mia.
I was awake. When I stepped into the hallway, I saw footprints. Small ones. Bare feet. My daughter's. Leading toward the guest room. But beside them, larger footprints. My husband's. My stomach twisted so hard I almost bent over. Because my baby should have been asleep in her crib, not wandering the house with him. I followed the trail slowly, quietly, every step feeling heavier than the last. When I reached the guest room door, I heard something, not crying, not laughing, whispering. A man whispering to a baby, too softly, too sweetly, like he was trying to calm her from something he caused. I pushed the door open an inch, and what I saw made my knees shake. There he was, my husband, sitting on the floor with our daughter in his lap. But he wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the hidden camera I had placed behind the curtain. It was in his hand. The lens cracked. The memory card is gone. My blood turned cold. He smiled, but not the smile I used to know. This one was hollow, dangerous, almost relieved, like destroying that camera saved him. He whispered to our daughter. I stood there frozen, because the camera footage didn't just expose what my husband had been doing. It exposed why my baby cried every time he held her. He wasn't hurting her. He wasn't angry. He wasn't impatient. He was terrified, shaking,
sweating, panicking.
like he was reliving something. So I dug deeper. I opened the rest of the files on his hard drive, the ones he thought I'd never find. Buried inside a hidden folder was a video, dated years before I ever met him. I clicked it, and my heart broke. He was in a small room, same age as he is now, hands trembling, voice cracking, and beside him was a woman holding a newborn baby, not ours, a baby boy. She whispered, "Please hold him. He's your son." My husband stepped back, shaking violently, and then he screamed, "I can't. I don't know how. I'll drop him. I'm not meant to be a father." The camera fell sideways. The woman sobbed. The baby wailed, and the footage was cut out. I covered my mouth. Tears poured down my face. This wasn't just a secret. This was trauma buried so deep he never even told me. But that wasn't the twist, because the next video was recorded just 2 days after that one. The same woman, same baby, except the room was silent. Too silent. She sat on the floor, holding the baby against her chest. And she whispered, "He's gone, he stopped breathing, and you weren't here." My husband collapsed in the doorway, screaming. I felt my knees give out. My husband hadn't just lost a baby, he lost his first child. And he blamed himself so completely that he never told a soul, not even me. That's why he panicked every time he held our daughter. That's why our baby cried. She felt his fear, his shaking, his grief. I wiped my tears, breathing hard. This wasn't the end. There was one more file, a recording from last week. My husband, sitting alone in his car, eyes red, voice trembling. He whispered, "I keep seeing him when I look at our daughter. I'm scared I'll fail again." This wasn't a man avoiding his child. This was a man drowning in the memory of one he'd already lost. I whispered to myself, "God, what am I supposed to do with this?" Because now, I knew his truth. But the question wasn't about the past anymore. It was about the future. Can a man this broken truly be a father again? I sat on the floor for a long time holding my daughter, and holding the truth that had shattered everything I thought I knew. My husband didn't know I'd seen the videos. He didn't know that every breath I took now felt different. When he finally walked into the room, eyes tired, shoulders heavy, he whispered, "She still cries with me."
I'm sorry.
I don't know why. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see a distant father. I didn't see a careless man. I saw someone broken in a place he believed no one could mend. I asked quietly, "Do you want to hold her?" His hands shook instantly. His face turned pale. He took a step back. No, please. I can't." What if? He didn't finish. He didn't have to. So I walked toward him slowly with our daughter in my arms. And I said, "If you don't face this, you'll lose her too." That sentence hit him harder than any scream could. He looked at me like I had reached into his chest and touched the wound he spent years hiding. Then, something happened. He broke. Not in anger, not in fear, but in confession. He whispered, barely breathing, "I held him, my son, once. Just once." And he stopped breathing in my arms. I thought I killed him. And every time I look at her, I feel that moment all over again. My chest tightened. This wasn't just guilt. This was a man living inside a nightmare that never ended. He sank to the floor, hands over his face, crying like he'd been holding it in for years. I knelt beside him. I placed our daughter between us, not forcing her into his arms, but letting her tiny hand touch his knee. She didn't cry. Not this time. She just blinked at him, curious, calm. He looked at her like she was sunlight he didn't deserve. I whispered,
She knows you.
"Even if you're scared, she knows you." He reached out, fingers trembling, barely brushing her blanket. And then, she grabbed his finger,
Firm.
Tiny. Unafraid. He froze. Tears fell. Not from panic this time, but from something he hadn't felt in a very, very long time.
Hope.
He whispered, Can I try to hold her? His voice cracked on the word try. I nodded slowly. I placed our daughter in his arms. And yes, he shook. His breath was unsteady. But this time, she didn't cry. She stared at him. He stared back. And something in the air shifted. Something raw, fragile, beautiful. He whispered to her, I'm not going to lose you. I promise. For the first time since she was born, he held her without fear. But just when I thought this story was finally healing, I noticed something. A woman's name printed on the hospital bracelet he still kept hidden in a drawer. The name of the mother of his first child. Except, it wasn't the same name from the videos. It was someone else. Someone new. And the date on the bracelet? Just 9 months before our daughter was born. My heart dropped. Because now there was a new question. One more devastating than all the rest. Did my husband lose a child? Or did he lose the truth? I held the hospital bracelet in my hand. My pulse was hammering so loud it felt like the room was echoing with it. My husband was still sitting on the floor, holding our daughter, finally calm, finally connected, finally healing. And yet, the name on that bracelet burned through my thoughts like a blade. It wasn't the mother of his first baby. It wasn't a name I had ever heard before. And the date, 9 months before our daughter was born. My throat tightened. I asked quietly, Where did you get this? He froze. The color drained from his face, so fast it looked like someone pulled the life out of him. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at our daughter. He just whispered one word.
No.
Not an answer. A reaction.
A plea.
A panic. I repeated, stronger. Who is she? He shut his eyes like the question physically hurt him. And then, very slowly, he handed our daughter back to me and stood up. Not angry. Not defensive. Just defeated. Like a man who knew his last piece of truth was about to be ripped open. He sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, I hoped you would never find that. My stomach dropped. He continued, voice trembling. Her name was Lila. I knew her before I met you. It was nothing serious, nothing lasting. But He stopped, swallowing hard. We had a baby, and she didn't make it. I told you that. My heart thudded painfully. But that date, I said quietly. That bracelet is from after you and I were together. The silence that followed was thick, cold, terrifying. He didn't deny it. He didn't defend himself. He just whispered, I made a mistake. A terrible one. My entire body went numb. A mistake. A mistake that had a name. A mistake that had a hospital bracelet. A mistake from just months before our daughter was born. I looked at him, disbelief twisting my voice. You cheated on me? He didn't breathe. For a moment, I swear his chest didn't even move. Then his voice cracked.
No.
I didn't cheat on you. I swear on everything I didn't. But I also wasn't honest about something. My heartbeat stumbled. What? He looked at the wall. Like the truth was carved there. Like he couldn't face my eyes. Then he finally whispered, Lila didn't lose the baby because of an illness. My skin went cold. He continued, voice barely audible. She lost her because of me. Those 6 words slammed through me like ice. What do you mean because of you? His jaw trembled. His hands shook. His eyes filled with a fear I had never seen before. I wasn't supposed to be there that night, he whispered. I wasn't supposed to drive. I wasn't supposed to.
He stopped.
My body turned to stone. Because suddenly, everything clicked. His fear of holding babies. His panic. His trauma. His guilt. It didn't begin with his first loss. It began with the truth he never told anyone.
The truth about a baby.
Who didn't survive. Not because of fate. Not because of illness. But because of a mistake he made. A mistake he had been running from ever since. I whispered, trembling, What did you do? He covered his face with both hands. And whispered the words. That would change everything. I caused the accident. And I've been scared of myself ever since. My knees weakened. Because now, the question wasn't just whether I could trust him. It was whether he could trust himself. Around the child we both loved. For a long moment, he didn't look at me. He just kept his hands over his face, as if removing them would force him to meet the horror in my eyes. I held our daughter close, my arms tightening around her tiny body. She was finally asleep.
Calm.
Peaceful. But nothing inside me was calm anymore. I whispered, carefully, quietly, like the truth might shatter if I spoke too loudly. Tell me what happened. He slowly lowered his hands. His eyes were red, not just from tears, but from years of guilt, the kind that eats a person alive in silence. It wasn't supposed to happen, he whispered. I was supposed to pick her up. She was tired. I was tired. We argued. His voice cracked. She was pregnant and I thought we were just talking. I didn't know she would run out like that. My breath hitched. He looked down at the hospital bracelet. That night, she begged me not to drive. She said I wasn't in the right headspace. But I insisted. I told her I just wanted to get home. His hands trembled. And on the way, I closed my eyes for 1 second.
Just one.
1 second, he repeated, voice trembling. And when I opened them, I couldn't stop the car in time. My chest tightened painfully. He whispered, she was hurt badly. And the baby didn't make it.
My throat closed.
He continued, tears slipping silently. The doctors told her the truth. She told me she forgave me. But she left. I never saw her again. And He pressed a hand against his chest, like he was holding himself together. I've been terrified of myself ever since. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why did he froze when the baby cried? Why did he panicked when she wriggled? Why did he held her like she was made of glass? Why he never trusted himself alone with her? He wasn't afraid of her. He was afraid of himself. I whispered. He nodded. For years. Why didn't you tell me? He swallowed hard. Because I thought you'd see me the way I see myself, as someone who doesn't deserve to be a father. My eyes stung. He looked at me with a fear I've never seen before. And when our baby cried around me, I thought maybe she felt it too. Maybe she knew I didn't deserve her. A tear rolled down my face before I could stop it, because I suddenly understood. His distance, his panic, his guilt, his fear. He wasn't avoiding her. He was punishing himself. I whispered softly, you didn't hurt our daughter. He shook his head, crying silently. I know. But what if I could? What if something happened because of me again? What if? I stopped him gently. You're not that man anymore. He looked away, voice breaking. You don't know that. I stepped closer. Slowly. Carefully. You froze because you were scared, not because you didn't love her. His shoulders shook. Then he whispered something that shattered me completely. I didn't even let myself bond with her, because I thought if something ever happened to me, it would be easier for her to forget me. My breath broke, because that wasn't fear. That wasn't attachment. That was self-punishment. I whispered, you deserve her, and she deserves you. He stared at me broken, fragile, terrified. And then I said something that neither of us expected. But if we're going to move forward, you have to tell me everything. No more secrets. Not ever again. He nodded, eyes filled with a painful kind of relief. Then very softly he said, there's one more thing. My stomach dropped. One more thing? He reached slowly into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and whispered, I wanted to tell you this before the baby was born, but I didn't know how. He held it out to me with shaking hands. It's time, he said quietly. You deserve to know. My heart pounded as I unfolded the paper, and the moment I saw what it was, my whole body went cold. It wasn't a confession. It was a court document, a petition, filed months before our daughter was born. The title at the top made my knees almost buckle. Request for voluntary termination of parental rights. I stared at that petition. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the pages. Petition to voluntarily terminate parental rights. Those words were like knives. I kept reading, even though every line felt like I was ripping my own skin open. According to the document, my husband, the man I trusted, the man I built a home with, had filed it 2 weeks before our baby was even born. 2 weeks. Before he even held our daughter. Before she even took her first breath. Before he ever looked at her tiny face. He had already decided he didn't want to be her father. Not now. Not ever. It was like watching the floor disappear under my feet. My throat closed. My chest burned. My legs wouldn't move. I felt like I was looking at a version of my husband I didn't recognize. A man capable of walking away quietly. A man capable of pretending. A man capable of holding our baby, cooing at her, kissing her forehead, while knowing he had already signed a paper to abandon her. I heard the bathroom door open behind me. He stepped out, towel around his shoulders, humming a soft tune, until he saw the papers in my hand. He froze. His face went white. Not guilty white. Caught white. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. My voice didn't come out at first. When it finally did, it was raw and shaking. "You filed this? Before she was even born." He swallowed.
Hard.
"It's not what you think." I laughed. A sound I didn't recognize, a sound cracked and broken. "You signed a document to erase yourself from your own daughter's life. Tell me, what exactly am I supposed to think?" His eyes moved everywhere except my face. I wasn't planning to leave. I panicked, okay? "No," I said slowly. "Panic is forgetting your keys. Panic is double-checking the stove. This," I held up the papers, "is a decision." He stepped forward. I stepped back. He tried again. "Look, I was scared I couldn't be a good father. Scared I'd mess up. Scared she wouldn't connect with me. Scared," I whispered. "And your solution was abandonment." He shut his eyes. And in that moment, something inside me understood the truth. He wasn't scared of being a bad father. He was scared of responsibility. Scared of sacrifice. Scared of losing his freedom, his comfort, his ego. Our baby didn't make him run. Fatherhood did. I put the papers down on the table between us. "She cried around you because she felt this," I said softly. "She felt you pulling away. She felt you choosing out." He rubbed his face, frustrated. "Don't do this." "No." I cut him off. "You did this." Silence fell between us.
Thick.
Heavy. Final. I didn't cry. Not anymore. The tears had burned out. All that was left was clarity. "I'm filing for separation," I said. "And I'm keeping that petition exactly as it is. If you don't want to be her father, I won't beg you to stay." He opened his mouth, but he didn't say a word. Not a single word. He just stood there while I walked past him, holding our daughter in my arms. For the first time since all of this began, she didn't cry. She relaxed against me.
Soft. Warm.
Safe. As if she finally understood. We had enough. Just her and me. And that's my story, baby. Life taught me something I never wanted to learn. Sometimes the person you build a family with was never meant to stay. But sometimes, losing someone is how you finally save yourself. If you're still listening, tell me, what city are you tuning in from tonight? And if my story touched your heart even a little, go ahead and like and share it, sugar. Someone out there might need to hear it.